TDPK Podcasts, Thailand GameChanger, inside the minds of Thailand's innovators. Hi, this is Michael Waits and welcome back to Thailand GameChanger. We are excited to have Vikram Arunagiri, a Japanese guy, a managing director at Gulp in the studio today. Vikram, how are you doing?
I'm very well. Unfortunately, I don't look Japanese, but I definitely maybe sound Japanese.
But do you get that a lot? Because we talked about this before we started recording. Like you said, I said, how do you pronounce your last name? You said, oh, it's hard. But for me, I look at it, every time I see it, I just think of sushi because it's onigiri.
Yes.
Right? Do you get this a lot?
I do. And most of the time, it's quite hilarious because they see Vikram, very traditional Indian strong name, and then they see Arunagiri and they think, wow, it's going to be a very handsome, looking, Japanese Indian guy, and then I show up like a big bear with a big beard.
It's still very handsome. And I will leave the Japanese stuff aside. You know, this episode, I think, in the pantheon of all the episodes I've done for any of the shows, is the longest planning ever. I think we first started doing this in August.
Yes. And then we did it. We attempted
it. We did an almost video one, then we did an almost in the studio one. And to be fair, the only reason why this is happening is because I reached out to your wife.
Correct.
And she said, it would be great to have me on, but you should have my husband on as well. Yeah.
Yes, big thanks to her for sure.
She's really, really super. It's really great to have you here. Let's get a little bit of your background.
Sure. So actually, I have a somewhat interesting background.
Tell me.
I lived in Malaysia for a little while.
Did you really?
Grew up, yeah. And then we moved to Indonesia for 2 years. So that was downtown Jakarta. And then moved back to Malaysia for about 3 or 4 years. And then we moved to Thailand, I think in 1997, 98, right after the crisis.
So your family has not been in Thailand for 2 or 3 generations?
No.
Because there are a lot of Indian families, right, that emigrated here.
In the 70s.
Yeah, well, in the 70s and also in the 50s as well.
Yeah.
Came here for a bunch of different business reasons.
Yeah. Well, my wife's family
is like that, right?
Like that.
Okay, but your family isn't.
No. So my grandfather emigrated from India to Malaysia.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then my dad worked for an American multinational, and he was basically moved around a lot. And that's why we got this kind of international exposure. And I have a weird accent because I studied in an American school, a Chinese school, a British school, and then a Malaysian public school. So it's very difficult to kind of catch what I sound like. But yeah, that's basically the gist of it. And then we moved here in 97, 98, and then I've been here pretty much the whole time.
Did you go to high school here?
I did.
So where did you go to?
Bangkok, Patna.
Bangkok, Patna.
Yeah.
Which is weird as well because you don't have an English accent.
I do not.
Did they make fun of you? Because almost everybody else there does.
I was actually bullied quite a bit.
Were you really?
Yeah. Because basically I came from an American, because I studied, where I learned English was an American school.
Sure.
When I went to Patna, it was, very strong kind of American accent. And they were just like,
who's this dude?
Yeah, why is he here?
First of all, not Japanese.
Yeah.
Second of all, he's got this terrible accent.
Right. Can't spell, can't write.
Yeah.
Because,
what's the Z for?
Yeah, and because, I learned, my dad, I think had a really good time experimenting on his first child. So my first language was actually Tamil, which is my native tongue. And my second language was Mandarin. So
I speak Mandarin now?
I I can understand a lot, but I cannot speak. I don't have the
parents.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do with it? You can't choose it.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I'm sure your parents are great.
Most of the time.
You'll see. Anyway, you'll see. So go ahead. So then you did that, and what have you been doing in Thailand since you got here? You graduated from high school here. Did you go to university here as well?
So I went to university for a year in Melbourne. I was a bit of a bad kid, and I was brought back. And my mom wanted to discipline me, so
being a bad kid, by the way, at that age is almost a guarantee for success later on in life.
It seems so.
Don't you think?
It seems so. Almost everyone that had this similar story is doing very well right now.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I went to a school in Amarin Plaza called Bangkok School of Management, which was basically had a partner program with the University of New Hampshire.
Oh, neat.
So I was studying there, and then when I finished, I really wanted to open a restaurant. So
go ahead.
I went to my dad and I said, hey, I want to open a restaurant. He says, your track record's fantastic, You barely finished college. Like, you came back from Australia. All you've done is waste money. You're
Here, why don't we just light it on fire?
yeah. So he goes, show me some commitment, And then a very, very good friend of mine, she was joining the Cordon Bleu in Dusit. And she said, Vic, like, let's do it together. You love to cook, blah, blah, blah. And I said, I heard it's really hard. And she's like, yeah, obviously, like, life is really hard.
Was it really expensive as well?
It was. I mean, it's very expensive, obviously, for Thailand. I think it comes to almost $1 million a year.
Oh, wow, that's really
But
expensive.
if you can compare Le Cordon Bleu to, CIA, like the ones overseas, like in the US, London, and France, it's very cheap.
CIA is the Culinary Institute of America.
Yeah, correct. And
not the Central Intelligence.
No. This
to be
chicken's not torture.
Yeah. You've worked on that. You've definitely worked on this line.
Definitely.
You didn't come up with that just now. I love it. Chicken's not torture. Maybe that's the title of this episode.
So the one of the main differences is that was really interesting about the Cordon Bleu was everything was French and everything was imported from France. So it's from the teachers to the equipment to the food. So yeah, I mean, I joined. My dad was like, you got to be at least in the top 5 for me to believe that you can do something.
Yeah.
And I managed to do that. And after I graduated, I worked in a restaurant called Spring and Summer. It's now a condo, like all great places in Bangkok now turning into condominiums.
Exactly.
And then after that, I got an opportunity to take over a restaurant, a small little restaurant in Sukhumvit Soi 8 in a hotel coffee shop. And I think I was 25, 26.
I want to get back to the coffee shop in a second. But when you were in Melbourne, you said you went to the University of Melbourne for a year.
Yeah.
Right? Not didn't you? When you knew you were going to have to get taken home.
Yeah.
Did you feel like, oh, I really messed up now?
It's interesting because I find it hard sometimes to look back and see my mindset. Because like when I look at it now, I would be like, hey, like Vic,
what are you doing?
Wake up, like don't spend $800 on champagne on models that are never gonna talk to you the next day, right? Don't do these kind of stupid things.
Right.
But I think at that time, I was incredibly spoiled. I was the eldest. Growing up, I was the eldest. I was the first grandson for my mom's side. Being in an Indian family, I was the first kid. I was the son. I had a natural gift of languages and people say I talk a lot, but like speaking. So I spoke very young. So all my aunts, uncles, grandparents, whatever, I was like the showpiece. So growing up, being like whatever you say, a superstar, I almost felt
like entitled to just.
And he knew, like this was just another. My dad would hook me up, basically, right?
Yeah.
And I think reality really struck when I opened my restaurant.
Wait, so that's what I want to ask you. Like, did you feel like when you opened that restaurant, when you had that responsibility, that now you finally had to live up to that thing?
So my life kind of crashed into each other. So the spoiled Vic's life and responsibility came together one because my parents were going through a divorce.
Oh, right.
And when that happened, basically they just said, well, we've given you the money to start up the restaurant, bye-bye, and now it's your turn.
Right.
And I was, the bubble basically burst, right? And I remember the first month looking at the accounts, and I think we had 8,000 baht surplus, which was, what I used to spend like a day in Australia.
In a minute.
Yeah. And my biggest worry from then on till today is how am I going to make payroll? Because back then, I never had to worry about money. Money would come into my account. Now I had people who relied on my decisions to,
So did you have that look back then? Do you know what I mean? Because you're still not that old when you're running this restaurant, when your parents are going through this divorce. Did you have that look back like, oh, okay, I get it now?
I think, I'm very, I think blessed is a weird word because I'm not religious, but I'm very, blessed.
You're fortunate.
Yeah, fortunate in I had really, really good mentors.
Yeah.
So one of my mentors who's like my, like my godfather here in Thailand, who looked after me when I was kind of here like alone. He basically taught me like, two of the most important things that I always like think of in my life. And number one is like never complain about work. He's like people, whenever you meet someone like, oh, I'm so busy or I'm so tired. He's like, only stupid people complain about work because there are a lot of people who have no work.
Right.
Which means they have no money.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And the second thing he said is never cheat. Never cut any corner. No. Like he's like, if you can afford white rice, that's it. But you don't cheat one person.
Right.
Life will be very hard, but eventually you'll be very successful.
I agree.
Yeah.
Those are great tenets. And I want to tell you a funny story as well. When I first joined Morgan Stanley in, it was like 1942, but it was 1987, one of the guys that I was working with, we had just started, so we had a lot of basically grunt work to do.
Yeah.
And he went home. His father was a blue-collar guy, right? We were working in a big fancy office in New York. And he went home to his dad on the weekend and said, Dad, they're making me do all this stuff. Like, why don't they just hire someone to do it?
Correct.
I didn't go to college for this.
Yeah.
And his dad, like your mentor, had a beer on his big belt. He went like this. They did hire someone to do it.
You.
Exactly. Stop complaining.
Stop complaining. I think, like, this is the ethos, I think that's, I don't mean to sound like preachy, but it's the ethos that's lost on this generation, that you don't like, that hard work is always like bad. And there's the idea of sacrifice. Like everybody you talk to now, it's what's my cut? What am I going to get out of it? Right. When we started work, like, when I worked in spring and summer, my salary was, I think like 8,000-9,000 baht. You wouldn't even go
for the month.
For the month, not the day. Yeah?
No.
And we wouldn't even dare go and ask for a holiday.
Yeah.
Because the opportunity was you have a job.
Yeah.
You have I have people coming and interviewing with me who've planned out their holidays for 3 years.
Right. They're like, I can start in February, but March I'm gone.
Yeah. And the next Feb, I'm going to the US. And then the Feb after I'm going to run. And you're like,
what is going on?
Yeah. I mean, like, it's, I think, that a lot of us, whoever, whether you're successful in any way, shape or form, I think that if you don't have that hard work ethos, it's quite difficult.
So my first job was a paper route.
Yeah,
when I was like 9 or 10 years old, and that money actually went to the family so we could like buy food.
Wow.
Yeah. And my second job was working at Baskin Robbins for $3.15 an hour.
An hour, yeah.
An hour. Yeah. Which is what, 100 baht?
100 baht, yeah.
An hour.
Mm.
Yeah. So
and it's proper work. It's not like
No. It's proper work. I was scooping ice cream, for 6 or 7 hours in a row, going into a freezer, lifting heavy cases of ice cream. It was hard work. I remember once going into the freezer. This was in Philadelphia, right? So I remember once going into the freezer with the woman that I worked with, and she was scared because I had come in behind her to help out, and she was like, She was like, don't scare me like that. She goes, my dad's in the mafia. If you do that again, I'm going to have him kill you. I was like, I think I'm in love. We started dating after that.
Where better else to meet someone than an ice cream freezer?
Oh my God. So tell me this, though. You didn't start your own restaurant, but you had this restaurant.
Yeah.
Do you still have it? No, you just turned it into a condo. What happened after that?
So basically, another weird turn of events. So I came from the Cordon Bleu, then spring and summer, very fancy, very high-end dining. Wanted to implement all these great ideas. I was in a 3-star hotel coffee shop, so that reality check after 3 months, like nobody needs a Wagyu burger or, like...
Even if they do need it, they're not going to get it.
Yeah, like, we were doing like carbonara with like truffle paste and stuff, and nobody wanted to eat any of that.
Right.
So then randomly my focus went to the bar. And I said, hey, I get that people like their standard food, right? But drinks, everybody's down to try something new with drinks, right? So I kind of took the principles from Cordon Bleu, like flavor, balance, whatever, and then I started creating...
So your own cocktails?
Cocktails, yeah. And but they were, today, I mean, it's a joke, like what I did, but it was just basically trying to balance flavors,
Right.
Then more and more people started coming because of the drinks, and they, the food was like I mean, I think the top three sellers was curly fries, French fries, and we had this. In Thai, it's like a fried pork with garlic fried rice.
Right.
Literally anyone in this room can make it.
Well, maybe both of you do it.
It's super.
Don't drag me into this.
And then basically someone came up to me randomly and said, "Hey, I'm getting married. Is it possible for you to supply like the alcohol for the wedding, but also have these like cocktails so him and his wife kind of dated at the restaurant or whatever. So could you do it?" And that's the one thing I'm sure if my staff listen to this, they're gonna be cracking up. Is that I never say no.
Yeah.
And the reason is, I believe that, of course, you have to take calculated risk.
Absolutely.
I do take a lot of risk, and I put incredible amounts of pressure on myself and my staff. But I believe that if you say no, the next decision you make, you will be forced into saying yes to a decision that could be bad.
Yeah, but also, here's the other thing that I've learned over time. Just by being in business.
Yeah.
Right? Just by being in business, you have all these opportunities come to you. And at the beginning, I say yes to everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Because I don't know when the requests are going to stop coming.
Correct.
So at the beginning, I just go, I can do that. And then I get scared.
Yeah.
I'm like, can I do that?
Yeah.
Maybe I can, maybe I can't. But if I say no, maybe no one will ask again.
Mm-hmm.
So I just keep saying yes. So far, I haven't let anybody down. Right? It's the same thing. Can you come to the wedding thing? Sure.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah. So I said yes. I had never ever done, and I'm from the south of India, so we're very conservative. Our weddings are in the morning at the temple. You have a dinner, and the reception is usually done, in a very conservative way. It's like a sit-down dinner, bride and groom. You take photos, and then you go home. And growing up, the only alcohol we would see at weddings is my uncles like sneaking in at the back and causing a ruckus like after my grandparents have left.
Right.
And here, North Indian culture is like what you see in the movies. It's 7 days. It's massive. Like there's parties every day. There's alcohol free flow.
Right.
And you're not talking about like Samsung. It's like it's premium range spirits, and it's all you can drink. And then they get really upset if the alcohol runs out. That's a huge thing. So we show up. This is one of the first weddings. We show up and we set everything up. It's me, my 2 waiters, my 1 bartender, my chef. So we had to close the restaurant early. So this is the whole team. The Gulf started with these, 5 of us. 1 guy just manning ice and bottles, right? 3 of us at the front, and 1 to help basically with the waiters when they come for orders. And boom! 750 Indian people walk in and they swarm the bar.
Oh my gosh, 750 people.
Well, at the end, it was almost 1,000. So 750 people for them. And I'll never forget that event because I remember closing my eyes, opening it, seeing 750 people, and then closing it, opening it, and nobody was there. Because it was that quick that we had to do everything. And I remember going back like with I'm the biggest critic of myself and my team,
I understand.
And I had a list like a mile long, like, oh my God, we should have been better prepared with this. We should have had that. And I was like, well, I mean, we tried, right? At the end of the day, we made money, right? We didn't lose any money. We tried.
Was everybody happy?
I thought no, because I said, look, it was a mess, like it was crazy. But, I'm the biggest critic of myself. So after the whole shenanigan, I said, look, we tried.
But did you think you'd done a bad job?
Horrible.
But did they tell you? In other words, you can normally tell when people come to the bar, they're like, can I have a drink? You know what I mean?
So
the
the funny thing is, when you're new, you don't pick up on these nuances. It's very funny you mentioned that because it was this. We had this conversation yesterday actually we have this group of like all different F&B guys. And my cousin, who's here from Australia, he was asking like, well, so what makes you guys like special? And we said, it's nuances, right? Like I can stand at a bar at a wedding, and I will know within 15 seconds whether we're doing a good job or we're gonna get complaints.
Yeah.
And if you don't have it, because when we started, it was just producing. You know, we didn't look in anybody's eyes. We didn't smile.
You're too busy doing the process.
Just making, right?
Right.
And I was like, oh man, you know, like I even had it in my head. I said, you know, I think I'm gonna give him like a 15-20% discount,
because
you know, maybe not charge for the manpower because, you know, we didn't do a good job. And then literally the next day, so weddings come in seasons, right?
Yep.
Like all good and bad things.
I'll leave it up to you whether it's good or bad.
So the next day somebody called me and said, hey, you know, like how much did so-and-so spend on that like setup? I was like,
Whatever it was. Yeah.
yeah, whatever it was. And they're like, oh, okay, so, you know, I've got 3 functions and,
Right,
you
so
know, I like
booked for next Friday.
And yeah, and I was like, we 3 functions,
Right.
like what? And then, lo and behold, I think at our peak, we were doing 140 weddings a year.
So this is my favorite kind of business. Not that it's alcohol related, although that's good enough for me in most cases.
That usually takes it over the edge.
But you understand my point, right? In other words, you went there, you weren't in the alcohol business.
So
You were in the fancy food business.
Yeah.
But that didn't really work because you weren't in a place that required fancy food.
Yeah.
So you kind of looked over there. This is what I was talking about. You're in business though.
yeah,
So you looked over there like, there's a bar. Let's see what we can do with that thing.
Yeah.
Which if you weren't in business, you weren't going to open a bar.
no.
But this is really interesting for me. And then you did the bar thing, and then some couple met at the bar, liked your drinks because you're just mucking around making the blue one and the green one and testing flavors. Excuse me. And then they get engaged and they're going to get married, and they say, hey, Vic, why don't you do our wedding?
Yeah.
And you go, sure.
Yeah.
And then you do it and you completely muck it up, but not really. Right? But now you're in business. And because you've done that, to the people at the wedding, you're the guy who does this.
Yeah.
You didn't advertise, you didn't put up signs, you didn't say hire the guys from Gulp.
Nope.
You did nothing. But people just came to you and said, hey dude, the wedding yesterday was amazing.
Yeah.
Your staff was great, the drinks were perfect, whatever. We got 140 of these for you to do next
Yeah.
year kind of thing. Then you're in business.
And the thing that was crazy is, you know, back then there was no social media, and I always used to say, like, if I started this when there was social media, I would have done 1,000 weddings because when we first started, I mean, there was the only photos we had were professionally taken by the photographer, so they didn't capture like live of stuff that we were doing.
Yeah, and remember, they weren't there to take pictures of you.
Yeah, and then we didn't have a brand. So we didn't Gulp still didn't exist.
Right, so you weren't
at that
wearing T-shirts or caps or
Nothing.
whatever.
We
You
just
didn't have-
wearing, we were dressed like hotel staff.
Right.
But everybody knew if you needed to get married and you wanted alcohol, you would contact Vic.
Right.
And then slowly, and we did one overseas. So at one point, we were doing a lot of inbound weddings. So
So people that would come like from
India, Hong Kong,
Wherever.
Dubai.
have their wedding in Thailand
Yeah,
kind of thing.
it was very cost effective.
Right.
So a famous magazine, they're called like an Indian online blog magazine, they're called Wedding Sutra. So they contacted us and they said, hey, you know, we want to publish
Oh my gosh.
your when you say oh my gosh, my oh my gosh is oh my god, I
Right.
don't have a brand.
Right.
Like it's people know me in Thailand.
Right.
And
So
so
how
and
can
I
you
got
contact you? Just call me, just scream Vic.
so I said, hey, you know, like I don't really have like, and they're like, you have a day, like get a brand.
Yeah.
Pay someone to make a logo.
Right.
So I called one of my best friends and I said, you know, what do I call this? And he's like, Gulp. I was like, well, dude, now that you've come up with the name, can you also hook me up with a logo?
Right.
So this this logo actually was in blue. For no
particular reason.
because we didn't even have time to like look at different color palettes. We just sent them the logo and said, by the way, we're Gulp.
Right.
At 2011, and that was, and it's funny because like, you know, I'm doing various other businesses now, and you know the logo has taken 3.5 weeks, and we've got color renditions and
Sure.
the stories behind it. Mine was literally one phone call, 25 minutes later.
Panic phone call.
Yeah.
Dude, help me out.
Yeah, and he just like, yeah, sure.
So can I ask you this though? Your dad obviously sees this business exploding.
Yeah.
Is he proud? Is he surprised?
I think surprised. I think now a lot more people are, you know, quote unquote proud. But I think for a long time they didn't really know what we did,
Right.
or who we were, and how big we were.
Right.
Because, when you do 140 weddings, you don't really need we didn't have like staff, we didn't have an office, those kind of fundamental things that
people see when they have it. Like when people think about what is fixed business. Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, if I invited you to a coffee shop, like I was joking with my team the other day, I showed them where I did 140 weddings. It's a coffee shop, it's for 31.
Right.
And I said, per square meter, this place is far more lucrative than the 2 shops we have now, because we don't do 140 weddings now.
Right.
And we made a lot more then than we do now.
Fair enough.
Obviously the business is pivoted, but I think now they see it, being traditionally Indian, like now they see something.
Right.
Oh, he's got a store.
Right.
He's got an office. He's got payroll. But when we did, we did Wonder Fruit 2 years in a row.
You did.
Yeah, the first time we did Wonder Fruit was the same thing. Someone came up to me and said, "Hey, we've got this festival in 3 months. Do you want to do it?" I said, "Yeah, sure." I had no idea what it was.
Right.
Took 10 of my staff. So my right hand and my left hand at that time, both of them, they're from Kong Toi. One is educated, the other one is not.
Right.
3 of us show up at the biggest festival in Thailand.
I was going to say, you should tell people what Wonder Fruit is.
Yeah, so it's the biggest kind of music, entertainment.
It's almost like trying to be Burning Man in a way.
Yeah, lifestyle festival. I
Right.
mean,
It's not just music. It's not just that. It's everything.
And we were basically manning and supplying all the bars. And it's a 24-hour operation because Wonder Fruit never closes.
It's open on more than a day, right?
It's 3 days. So
Right.
it opens on one day and closes on the other. And so we're open from day one till the day it finishes. And I remember the same thing. Like, we went there and my staff said, "We can't do this. Like,
We're here. We're doing it."
And I said, "We're here. We're doing it." I said, "Look, you sacrifice 3 days of your life. If we fail, we fail majestically."
Yeah, we failed wonderfully.
Yeah, because we're gonna have the greatest sunrise. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah,
right.
nothing.
And then but if you succeed, that feeling is like there's nothing.
It's like juggling 4 balls for 72 hours.
Yeah.
And when you're doing it, you're like, what if we drop it?
Yeah.
But if you don't drop it and you come out of it and it's okay, it's high fives everywhere. Right?
Exactly. And then like for me now, it's like a badge of honor, like I went to war and I came out of it and I went to war with people who didn't even know how to use guns.
Right.
It's one
taught them when the war started.
Yeah.
Pull this.
Yeah, we had training like on site.
Right.
We lost 20% of our team on the first day.
But they just gave up.
They gave up.
Just like, I can't do this. See, I love this too. I love working under this intense pressure.
Same.
I really do. I love and this is one of the reasons why I think I love Bangkok.
Yeah.
Because people from the outside look at it and just say, chaos. Just pure chaos. And what I see is a few things. But first of all, there's order inside that chaos.
Correct.
And the places where there is no order, a method for making it orderly. I love doing that.
And that's where I feel opportunity thrives.
Absolutely, because it's so confusing for most other people. Most people look at it and just like,
Yeah.
quit.
Correct.
I look at it and go, I can fix this.
Yeah. And I mean,
Look at
like,
this.
when I, like, the team that I have now, a lot of them, have been in different parts on the same journey with me. They see it now. They like, now when we get, like, for example, in January, we have 4 really big events every weekend.
Right.
And I said, and I like to tease them. So I say, maybe the 3rd one we won't do, right? It's going to be too much. And they all get up and say, "What?
Right.
No, what do you mean? No,
Right.
we are doing it."
So I was going to ask you, do you see a mindset change? Do you know what I mean? The longer that people work inside this environment with you, where they see this yes thing, is it the case that you either get different people in, or that the people that are there going, "Wait a second, we can do this"? So when you tease them, be like, "Yeah, we won't do the 4th one," they're like, "What's wrong with you?"
I think, I had this issue towards the end. COVID came at a very kind of strategic point in our business.
Okay.
Because I had this issue actually with our last 10 events before COVID started. And I found a lot of my team was, they kind of thought they'd already succeeded. They had this swagger. I have a massive ego. I'm also like, I think most people who
We all do.
build their own
Yeah.
thing have to do, but I never believed that I've succeeded. You know, I've never, anytime someone says, oh, well done, in my head, I'm like, well, there's going to be 7 more of these.
Yeah.
You know, like,
I always think the bigger it gets, the more concerned I get that it's not ever going to be there again. We talked about this before we started recording.
Yeah.
I've not succeeded.
Yeah. Like, no way, you know, like, or if this is success, like, I don't want it, you know, like, I want something
bigger,
else.
I want more, different, something.
And then, you know, and I always believed, like, I wanted to build a team that was like me, you know, these monsters that stress junkies, you know. I think, you know, people ask me sometimes, like, you know, so what do you think, like, makes you successful? I said, you know, the one problem I have in life, and it affects everything, my relationships, work, is I love to solve problems. Yeah. So I'm always the guy that, even if I met you, even if you introduce me to someone and I just met them for 30 seconds and they tell me, like, hey, you know, I can't get my Australian tourist visa on time, I'd be like, I have a guy. Just give me 1 second. You know, I'll call somebody.
So we were running a portfolio trading business in Japan at Goldman Sachs. And when we'd come into that business originally, this team that we had, Goldman was very close to shutting that business down. It was very complex. And the people that were there couldn't figure out how to run it. Wow. We fixed it with technology, which we'll get to in a second. But I think the best thing that I ever did at Goldman was I flew down to Hong Kong, because Hong Kong actually covered 7 or 8 different markets simultaneously. They had different opening times, different closing times, different break times, different market microstructures, and none of the technology had been optimized to handle any of this. And a couple of the guys they put in the seat to fix this business, you talk about stress junkies, could not take the stress.
Yeah.
They just quit. Yeah. Like, I cannot handle this. And I remember when I walked onto, I think it was the 68th or this, yeah, I think the 68th floor of Goldman Sachs in Hong Kong for the first time. Because I was sent there specifically to fix this, because my boss in Tokyo knew I could do this. And I walked on the floor, and literally people turned from their desks and they went, just laughed at me. I'm like, what's so funny? They're like, good luck with this.
Yeah, you're never going to be able to do it.
We did it, but it's the same thing. Remember we talked about, like, the chaos? It was so chaotic.
Yeah.
But I went in and I was just like, this, and this. And by the time I was done 4 or 5 months later fixing it, like, the whole office was shocked.
Yeah.
Just like the Wonderford thing.
Yeah.
We're like, when you're done, you're like, we did it. So now what can't we do?
Yeah.
And that's how I felt after that.
And I think, like, that was, you know, that was when I started putting a plan in place that, you know, I am going to have my own team. I am going to develop my own people.
Right.
Because, and, you know, whether that's going to be the business that we have now or the business we have in the future, whatever it is.
It doesn't matter. Those people are the things that
matter. And I said, you know what, if I focus on building the right army, you know, there's no war I will lose. Exactly. Right. And I was also incredibly tired. Again, you know, massive strain on my relationships, everything, because I was a one-man machine. Right? Yeah. So, you know, in a month, sometimes I would take like 6 to 8 flights. I did weddings in Bali. I did weddings in Jakarta, in Oman, in Vietnam, you know, in Malaysia.
Right.
I was everywhere, but also nowhere.
Right.
You know, and then, and I remember when I finished, the last wedding we did was in Oman. It was one of the people I look up to a lot, and one of the people who really, you know, changed my outlook on, you know, like, the aesthetic, the feel of an event. You know, like, when you do an event, if it just looks good,
yeah,
that's 20%. But if it feels good, then it's different, right? So we did his wedding, and we all like, you know, there's the food guy, the sound guy, the bar guy, him, and we all sitting down and we said, you know, we've done the perfect wedding. Because his wedding had, you know, it was, COVID was just starting, people couldn't fly in. We had to solve problems like, you know, 100 issues every day. And we were in a country where none of us had a guide.
Right. Yeah.
If it was in Thailand, he would call me and say, I need the impossible done now. And he knows, like, Vic will get it done somehow. Right. If it's in Indonesia, it's a different story. But we're in Oman, you know, like, we don't have this. And then after leaving that wedding on the flight, I thought, you know, like, if this is perfect, beautiful, you know, like, fantastic, but, you know, something's missing inside me. Something's kind of like missing, you know, like, I have all this, you know, like, financially very stable, you know, right, like, no debt, blah, blah, blah. You know, what happens? And then boom, COVID happened.
Right. What was the impact on your business for COVID? I mean, I guess you couldn't travel and do weddings at all, right?
So
What do you do with your staff? Like, what is that like?
So when it first started, we quickly, first I rearranged my finance. At that time, I had one staff. I had one guy who was my packer. He would just pack all the alcohol and deliver it. Right? Everybody was freelance. Nobody wanted to work full time because they were getting paid 1,000 baht an event. So if you did two events a day, that's 2,000, right?
Yeah.
And we were full 30 days. 60,000 baht for a guy who could just pour gin and tonics.
Right.
Why would you want a salary?
No.
Nobody would want a salary.
How can I get hired into this job?
Yeah. And they would get bonuses, blah, blah, blah. There was lots of incentives. So first thing we did was I made sure we had enough money to keep him employed for a year.
Right.
Right? And then we just hung out, me and him, for like 3-4 days. And we just got so bored because there was nothing we could do.
It's so strange though, right?
And then,
Because after all this frenetic activity.
and it was it was like a mental break, right? And then suddenly, so my friend in Indonesia and me, we started doing Instagram lives just to keep people like excited and entertained because so many people were getting so down with COVID.
Right.
So we would, like talk about the wedding industry, talk about food, talk about, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, this is getting really weird, but I used to get calls. Hey, do you have 2 bottles of Absolute? Do you have a bottle of Bombay? Can I have 4 bottles of Monkey Shoulder? Right. And we always had stock. So one of the things we did at events that nobody else did was we would provide all the liquor on consignment. Because we knew emotionally for the consumer, even though our price is high, it's worse when they run out of booze.
Absolutely.
And people were running out of alcohol.
Yeah, so the worst possible thing at a wedding or at a big event, right, is to say, we'll charge you, I'm just going to make up prices, right, because I don't know what anything costs, but just to say, like, okay, for $1,000, you'll get 17 bottles of wine.
Yeah.
It's the worst possible thing you can do, because when you need the 18th and it's not there, now it's the kind of the bride and groom's fault in a way.
100%.
But you didn't plan for
and
this?
People are, I don't know if you're allowed to swear, but
Don't swear.
yeah, people are beep. They will go to the bride and groom. Like,
They will. They'll just be like,
it's like, hey, babe, I saw it's your wedding, but you don't have enough scotch. It's like, it's free. Drink something else.
right.
But
if it completely runs out, so this consignment thing is actually a great idea. So that extra.
So what we did was we at Gulp, I think that was the first. So I went back to thinking like, what's our USP, right?
Right.
It's emotion. Because the product is a commodity. Tomorrow you can sell Black Label too.
Yeah.
You just have to go to Diageo, make a deal. You may not get the same percentage, but eventually you can. So when we did consignment, we changed the game because nobody did it. And everyone was like, look how stupid he is. He's going to end up with so much inventory, blah, blah, blah. But what we did was we managed our inventory so well and what we told the customer is, we guarantee you won't run out, right? As long as you believe in our data. So then emotion, second is data. And we kept so much data, we just never knew how to use it. So if you come and tell me tomorrow, I have 200 people from Indonesia, most of my family is Sindhi, which is a particular part of India, right? Like it's like in Thailand, you would say like Changwat, like from Buriram or whatever.
Right.
And we're having a 3-day wedding. These are the parties. I can tell you plus minus 10% how much you will use. Because I've done so many, 140 a year. I've been in this business for 10 years. It doesn't fluctuate.
Not really.
Right? It doesn't fluctuate. Like, and then if you tell me like, hey, we're American, like American couple coming from the US, heavy wine drinkers, we need a 3-day wedding. I'll be like, yeah, sure. This is what you need. And then we were so dynamic, right? That say day 1, we would blow through the inventory, right? Day 2, we could replenish. And every one of my competitors couldn't do that because they never wanted to take the risk in inventory.
Right.
For me, the risk in inventory was not a risk.
Not really. But and when you went into COVID, you have all this inventory. So somebody calls you.
And then they start, and then a buddy of mine said, why don't you just do this? Right? And I said, what do you mean? Do what? And you do what? Like, he's like, just deliver alcohol. And I said, okay. So I called my guy. I said, hey, we're going to deliver alcohol tomorrow. And he's like, he's one of my, we call him employee number 1. He's actually the CEO of the company because, he is everything that I preach. He's like, absorbed it like a sponge and he oozes it out. So he goes, boss, why will they buy from us? What can we do that everybody else can't do? So I said, okay, let's do free delivery. Let's do same day delivery because we have inventory, right? Let's not do every product known to man, right? Let's do stuff with our expertise that customers don't know.
I mean, you delivered wine to me.
Yeah, correct. I hope you got it in a timely manner.
I did.
So one of our flagship products was Lockdown G&T. So we basically did 3 bottles of gin and 12 or 24 tonics, I can't remember, for 3,000. Yeah, 3,005 or 3,600 baht, something like that, right? For the whole set.
I love this.
We sold over 300 sets in 4 days.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was me and him.
Delivering.
I pack, he deliver. I pack, he deliver.
All in Bangkok, yeah?
In my living room.
No, but I mean all deliveries in Bangkok.
In Bangkok. And then suddenly we got people from Pattaya. Then we got people from Phuket. And then we were like, how do we deliver to all of these places? So then we call our wedding logistics partners. Hey, what are you guys doing? We're unemployed.
Right.
We're ready to do whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Then we start scaling to like 50, 60 orders a day. One guy can't handle it. Call other wedding guys. Hey, what are you guys doing? And then from there, we were like, look, we need an office. And obviously my wife was like, this is getting out of hand because of alcohol.
She's like stepping over like
that's what would happen. Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
Yeah. There was literally like 700-800 bottles there.
This is the biggest problem for most e-commerce style businesses when their house becomes their warehouse.
Correct.
When you're trying to manage inventory out of your house, it's impossible.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then we said, we got a small office in Ekamai, and then we hired. Then we got like a little bit bigger. So we hired, one more delivery guy, and then we hired someone to just message people. So the other thing that we did was we invested in an online site, and I believe I had this idea that, again, right, emotion, that was the big thing for Gulp. Like what's that emotional connection with an online site? Nothing. I can put as many videos as whatever. There's no connection to the customer, right? And most of the customers are uneducated about spirits, right? And what they loved about Gulp was because when I started, I just used to wake up every day, sit on my couch and chat to them.
Right.
Hey, like it's my wife's birthday. What should I give them? Hey, have you heard of this gin? And we would just talk. Until today at Gulp, right now we have 2, sometimes 4 customer relations people. And that's what we do. We just talk to you. We don't believe in impersonal click and buy. And when it comes to like high-end gifting, when it comes to all of this stuff, we outsell all our competitors because when somebody looks just at a page, it's so boring. It's so 2D. Like we're 4D almost, right? We bring that emotion. They're talking to us, and the craziest things happen when we go to events and people go, "Where is so and so?" Like, and it would be a member of my staff, and I said, "Why?" It's like, "Oh, I just want to meet her. Like, she's helped me so much."
Right. So this is the thing. People have this big worry, right, that technology is going to replace humans in all jobs, particularly in sales.
Yeah.
One-click buying.
No.
Nobody wants this.
Yeah.
I mean, one-click buying for sure, but after they've decided. And I talk about this in the insurance industry. I think it's true in the real estate industry. But I'm so glad you brought this up because this is the perfect example. They want to talk to this lady that was at home that was just chatting with them going, no, don't get that. Get this.
Yeah.
Your wife will be happier with this. And maybe it's an even better price. So that when they do this constantly, they have this visceral connection with another human.
Yeah.
It's not the website.
No.
Like, you need that. That's table stakes. But this emotional connection to another person is what's never going to go away. And I love the fact that when they come to your events, they're like, where is this woman? I just want to say hi and thank you.
And the main thing is like we have that connection. So you see like all our social media platforms and stuff, people are interacting with us because Gulp is now a person. It's meant and I made sure in the beginning that was very important. So you will see pictures of our team when we go for team building events, when our like some of our staff don't speak English, we teach them English and they speak English for the first time. All of that is part of our content,
right?
So that we have that and a lot of alcohol brands did not believe in us. I'm talking about the big 3 or 4. They thought we were crazy. They were like, you will never get the volume. You will never make enough money.
Which is their big problem, not your problem. But
yeah. And they said, so we can support you. And then we had a few, 3 companies who said, hey, I think you're onto something. We'll back you. We really don't know where you're going to go or what's going to happen, but we'll back you. And when you look at statistics, right? And that's what everybody wants to know now. When you're looking for investment or whatever,
data,
data, and they say but your order count is not so high. Your basket size is very high, right? So most online retailers, their basket size is in the 1,000 baht range, right? I was 2,700 and above,
right?
And then, but I always ask them, what's the reorder rate? Ask anybody,
right?
Lazada and stuff, their reorder rate's 15-20% because most of the time goods don't come on time.
Right.
You have terrible service, and you don't care if you buy a charger. Do you care which store you buy it from? No.
Not all, but also the discovery is impossible.
Yeah. It's so impersonal, right? Our reorder rate is 73%.
Of course.
Right? And I think the other 27 is people because they're not here. But even when they're not here, they still reorder from us. It's just the reorder is it's in such large time.
And they order 15 of these,
and then they disappear for 3 months,
and then
they order 15
more.
again. But and they're ordering it for their friends or whatever,
Of course.
And so I always tell them, I always tell my staff, we don't need 100,000 customers. We need 10,000.
Yeah.
Right. And 7,300 that reorder. That's it.
Right. That's it. And then
all of you will be successful. All of us will be successful. And the first wave of COVID, we grew. We were trying to kind of find ourselves,
right?
And we did a lot of kind of internal kind of soul searching, but we never invested even then because we were growing so fast. We were investing in infrastructure, bikes, storage, blah blah blah. The second wave of COVID, when it hit, that was really when Gulp kind of really transformed because it was the first time I actually sold equity to raise money. And everyone was like, again, you're batshit crazy. How can you raise money when the next round, Delta, people are dying on the streets? It's that bad. Nobody's going to invest.
Yeah, the one thing is people are never going to stop ordering alcohol and spirits.
So what we told the investors, they said, what are you going to do with the money? I said, half of it I'm going to invest in people.
Right.
And about 30 investors either laughed or said, dude, what?
Yeah,
what do you
good try.
What do you mean? And then, these two who've also been, massive supporters of us in since the beginning, not financially, but emotionally. And then they came in and they said, look, it's quite a lot of money you're asking for, right? I understand you want to invest it in people. Give us 2 kind of milestones, right? Either retail stores, concept stores, something like that, or an application. But the rest of the money, we actually don't care what you do. And we went from 4 staff to 12 staff.
Yeah, so you tripled, but 12 people is not a lot of people.
Yeah, but tripled with, not really much income because the income was still like this.
Yeah,
because we didn't, today we have 18.
Did you build a physical store?
So we built a physical store in Soy 49, which now has evolved into more of a showroom event space.
Right.
We have a physical store opening in Thanonchan in between Nang Lin Chi and Narathiwat Road.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of
Where's the one on 49?
Just past Ton Kruan restaurant.
Yep.
Right?
Got it. Left hand side.
So we're gonna direct a lot of.
That's in a house kind of thing.
Yeah. It's a big. So it's a huge house.
I have to go there.
Yeah, you please come.
I'd like to go there.
And then we've got a storage, a 24-hour air conditioned storage, and then we've our office is there, fulfillment is there, everything is there. Right now, it's the monster that pumps everything out.
Got it. So did you do this capital raise?
Yeah. So got the money, invested in people only, nothing else, right? And my old staff thought I was even crazier. They're you're just adding more and more expenses. There's no revenue, blah blah blah. Then I kind of saw the light at the end of the tunnel when I started getting inquiries from India, and they were saying, "Hey, Jan, Feb, March next year."
So this is 2022.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're in 21, right? Yeah,
I think so. Sometimes it's hard to remember.
It's all just one big wave.
It feels like it.
Yeah. And then I said, "Hey, it's gonna come back, and it's gonna come back big. Like Thailand's gonna come back."
You talk
big.
about business, yeah.
I think tourism, like wherever we're at, and I don't know when, right?
But it's coming.
So I hired more staff and trained them, and all we did, everyone I hired, I said, for 3 months you have no KPI.
Right. You just have to learn.
You have to make as many mistakes as possible. And one of my staff, really young girl, like I tell her, "You're gonna be my next monster." And when she came, I said, "You like doing events?" She's like, "Yeah, of course. Everybody loves doing events."
Sure.
Right? I said, "Cool. Tomorrow you have an event." She's like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Yeah, there's an event tomorrow. I just booked it. Here's the address. Here's the contact person. This is the event brief. Now it's your job to ask the right questions. Bye-bye."
I love it.
And she's like, and I do this to all my staff because I want that feeling of wonderful. I want them to get that feeling of going into something and going, "Oh my God.
I don't know how to do this.
I don't know."
But I have to do it.
Yeah.
And I can either walk away or do it.
So the ones that say, "Okay, walk away," they're on my hit list.
Yeah, for sure. They're done.
I'm like, yeah, they're
It's fine.
not going to happen.
Because their attitude's just wrong from the beginning.
Yeah,
Right?
correct. But then the other ones, I'm like, okay, you're ready to do the grunt work. You're ready to do the impossible. Like, let's do the impossible. And then what happened was in November, when things started opening up, like last month,
Right.
we were flooded with events.
Right. So this was the thing I was going to ask you about. And maybe we'll end on this. I saw your company at an event. Was it in November? I can't remember.
Yeah, at Importier.
It all blurs together. And I saw that out there and I thought, okay,
Yeah.
things are not coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, we were flooded with inquiries and we were laughing because all our competitors were looking at us thinking these guys are going to go bust in Jan.
Yeah,
because
they're
they have
crazy.
such a big head count.
Overhead, yeah.
Overhead is so high. Vic's a maniac, he's finally made that wrong decision, right?
Right.
But then when we needed to do 25 events,
Everybody
who
was
else
ready.
could do it? We had all the manpower. We were like, "Yeah, you want to do a party tomorrow? Yeah, no problem. 2 girls, go there, go here, go there." And the great thing was we built the team 3 months before.
Right.
Like they got to know each other, team building, bonding. We did all this kind of stuff, nothing related to the business. But now we've got a family of pit bulls, right? Like big monsters.
Well, this is the army you talked about building
Yeah.
at the beginning.
I mean, I was in Bangladesh for 4 days. We did 5 events
In Thailand.
in Thailand. And I was at my friend's wedding.
So I think this is the perfect way to end. This was an awesome story.
Thank you.
And I'm so glad we waited 6 months.
6 months.
Something like that to come in and tell it.
Hopefully in 6 months' time we can come in and do a
Absolutely.
more interesting one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Cheers.
TDPK Podcasts, Thailand GameChanger. Inside the minds of Thailand's innovators.